In 1959, 9 hikers vanished in Russia's Frunze Ural Mountains. When rescuers found their camp, it was ripped open from the inside, bodies scattered across the snow in terrifying conditions. Strange injuries, missing eyes, unexplained lights in the sky, all buried in silence. This is the chilling, unsolved mystery called the Dyatlov Pass incident. This tale doesn't begin with monsters or ghosts. It begins with ambitious students, youthful laughter, and the thrilling spirit of adventure. They were some of the best and brightest, physically strong, mentally sharp, and prepared for everything the brutal Russian winter could throw at them. But what happened during those final, Frunze hours would defy logic, science, and even imagination. When rescuers finally found their abandoned tent, they were met with a chilling scene. The tent had been slashed open from the inside. Their foot tracks led into the darkness of a blizzard. Bodies scattered across the mountainside, some half-dressed, others mutilated in ways that defied nature. No sign of external attack, no survivors, no clear explanation. And so, the nightmare of Dyatlov Pass was born, a story tangled in secrets, fear, conspiracy, and the terrifying unknown. The leader of the expedition was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student known for his meticulous planning and leadership skills. Dyatlov was the glue that held the team together, a quiet but confident figure who inspired trust. He designed and built his own radio equipment, organized previous tracks, and dreamed of creating a new hiking route through the Ural Mountains. His team was made up of 8 others, each exceptional in their own right. Zinaida Komogorova, 22 years old, was strong-willed, friendly, and fearless. She had survived a previous bear attack during a different expedition. Lyudmila Dubinina, just 20, was known for her tenacity and for speaking her mind. A survivor of grueling hikes, she had once completed a long trek with an injured knee. Yuri Doroshenko, 21, was remembered for his immense courage. He once fended off a bear with nothing more than a branch and raw determination. Alexander Kolevatov, 24, was studying nuclear physics and was described by friends as secretive but brilliant. Rustam Slobodin, 23, an accomplished athlete and long-distance runner, had a quiet, meditative nature. Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, 23, was lively, upbeat, and of partial French descent, bringing humor to cold, grim journeys. Semyon Zolotaryov, 38, the oldest and most mysterious member, a decorated veteran of World War II. Zolotaryov had military experience that made him both an asset and an enigma to the younger students. And finally, there was Yuri Yudin, who would be the group's unexpected survivor. Yudin suffered from chronic health issues, including rheumatism and a heart condition. Early in the expedition, he was forced to turn back due to unbearable joint pain. He would later say that this fateful retreat saved his life and cost him a lifetime of guilt and questions. The expedition was designed to meet the requirements for the Soviet Union's Grade III certification, the highest certification for hikers at the time. It required traversing hundreds of kilometers in extreme winter conditions. They were well prepared, carrying specialized clothing, skiing gear, tents, journals, and cameras. Nothing in their experience or equipment hinted at the horror that awaited them. They were smart. They were strong. They were ready. Or so it seemed. On January 23, 1959, the group boarded a packed train heading north, leaving behind the city of Sverdlovsk. As the train rattled through snow-covered villages and abandoned outposts, the hikers' spirits were high. They played music, sang songs, wrote in their diaries, and took down scenes of photographs. In their own words, they called themselves the Dyatlov Group, confident and proud. After 2 days of travel, they reached Ivdel, a small town barely more than a scattering of wooden houses and dirt roads buried under feet of snow. From there, they hitched a ride on a lumber truck to the even smaller outpost of Vizai, the last inhabited settlement before the true wilderness. In Vizai, they bought supplies, wrote final postcards to family and friends, and gathered their strength. The words on those postcards were cheerful, almost casual. Everything is fine. Don't worry about us. The hike is going well. The weather is good. No one could have guessed they were riding from the edge of oblivion. On January 27, 1959, the hikers strapped on their skis and headed north into the deepening snowdrifts, pulling heavy sleds loaded with food, clothing, tents, and tools. At first, the journey was uneventful. The group moved as a tied unit, skiing across frozen rivers, through skeletal forests of birch and pine. Nights were spent huddled in their large, shared tent. They kept journals, cracking jokes about the brutal cold and each other's clumsiness. Igor Dyatlov carefully mapped their progress, noting changes in elevation, wind speed, and snow conditions. But the weather began to turn. Temperatures plummeted to -30°C. Winds howled down from the peaks like the cries of some ancient predator. Visibility dropped. Snow fell endlessly, and yet they pushed on, determined to complete their route and to make history. On January 31st, the team reached the edge of a steep slope known as Klitsyakl, the Mountain of the Dead. By then, they were exhausted, disoriented, and nearly blind in the whiteout conditions. Instead of descending into a forested valley nearby a safer, more protected location, they chose to set up camp directly on the exposed slope. No one knows why. Maybe it was a navigational error. Maybe it was Dyatlov's decision, unwilling to lose the hard-won altitude. Maybe it was pride. Whatever the reason, they made their final camp there, on the mountainside, beneath a pale and pitiless moon. They had only one more day of hiking ahead before reaching their destination. But they would never get there. February 1st, 1959. As night fell, the Dyatlov group huddled inside their tent, battered by freezing winds that screamed down the mountainside. Outside, the snow fell relentlessly, burying the slopes, turning everything into a white, formless nightmare. At some point during the night, something unimaginable happened. Something that caused 9 highly experienced, rational hikers to panic so severely that they slashed open their only shelter from the inside and fled into a deathly blizzard, without shoes, coats, or basic protection. Rescuers later discovered the tent. It had been violently cut open from within, not through the door. The hikers left footprints leading downhill, slowly at first, walking, not running. Some wore only socks. Others had bare feet. A few grabbed pieces of clothing in panic but were still woefully underdressed. Following the footprints, search teams found the bodies in increasingly bizarre conditions. 2 were found near the tree line, by the remains of a fire, wearing only underwear. 3 others were discovered between the tree line and the tent, as if they had treed and failed to crawl back. The last 4 were found later, buried under snow in a ravine, nearly 70 meters deeper into the forest. Their injuries were horrific. One had a crushed skull, with fractures so severe, they were likened to the impact of a car crash. 2 had shattered ribs, with internal bleeding but no external bruises. 1 woman was missing her tongue, eyes, limbs, and part of her facial tissue. Strangely, despite the violence of their injuries, no external wounds were found. No defensive injuries. No bruising that would suggest an attack by another person or an animal. What kind of force could do this? Why were some bodies radiated? Why was there no sign of struggle at the camp? The scene defied explanation, and it chilled everyone who came near it. In the aftermath of the Dyatlov Pass tragedy, investigators scrambled to make sense of the evidence. But the deeper they looked, the stranger the case became. First came the avalanche theory. According to some officials, a sudden snow slide forced the group to evacuate the tent in terror. But critics quickly dismantled this idea. The slope angle was too shallow for a real avalanche. The tent was still standing when rescuers found it. No heavy snow deposits were discovered over the site. The injuries didn't match those of typical avalanche victims. If not an avalanche, then what? Military involvement was another theory. At the time, secret Soviet weapons tests were being conducted in remote areas. Some believe the hikers stumbled into a classified military operation, perhaps exposed to parachute mines or experimental sonic weapons. The radiation found on some of the clothing fueled this speculation. Strange lights reported in the sky over the Ural Mountains that night bright, glowing orbs moving silently added further mystery. Witnesses described these orbs as orange or bluish balls, sometimes hovering, sometimes darting away at unnatural speeds. Were the hikers accidental witnesses to something they should never have seen? Others propose a paranormal explanation. The Mansi people, indigenous to the region, consider the area sacred and forbidden. Legends tell of mysterious, giant forest beings who protected the mountains. Some speculate that the Dyatlov group encountered something primal, something territorial. Photographs recovered from the hikers' cameras show blurry, humanoid shapes lurking in the background of snow-laden trees. Artifacts, camera glitches, or silent witnesses to an encounter gone horribly wrong. Even more bizarre theories emerged. Infrasound, a rare weather phenomenon that produces a low-frequency sound capable of inducing panic attacks in humans. UFO encounters, visitors from beyond the stars, interdimensional rifts, portals opening between realities. Each theory explains some part of the evidence. None explained everything. The Soviet government, eager to avoid embarrassment or unrest, quickly closed the investigation, ruling the cause of death as an unknown compelling force. No follow-up, no accountability, no closure, only whispers and speculation, and silence. Today, Dyatlov Pass remains a place of chilling fascination. Hikers, scientists, conspiracy theorists, and adventurers still journey to the site, retracing the doomed expedition's final steps. A small memorial stone stands near the tree line, bearing the names of the 9 hikers who perished so mysteriously. But even after decades of research, speculation, and reopening of investigations, no universally accepted explanation has been found. In 2019, the Russian government once again concluded that an avalanche was to blame. Few outside official circles were convinced. Too many questions remain. Why would seasoned hikers flee in an orderly but desperate fashion into the night? Why were some crushed with impossible force, yet barely bruised externally? Why was there radiation? Why were files classified for decades, and some still missing? Why was there such silence from the authorities? The Dyatlov Pass incident stands as a sobering reminder that even in an age dominated by logic and science, some corners of the world remain dark, wild, and unknowable. Maybe the hikers saw something they weren't meant to. Maybe they heard something that can't be explained. Maybe they simply made a terrible mistake in a moment of panic. Or maybe, just maybe, the mountain itself took them. Their footprints, once etched into the snow, have long since vanished. But their story remains, a whisper on the wind, a shadow among the trees, a mystery that will never die. And just like that, the mystery deepens. What do you think really happened? Share your theories in the comments. If you enjoyed unraveling this puzzle, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell, because trust me, the next mystery might just be even stranger. And if you're still craving answers, don't stop here. Check out the other mysteries on the channel. Each one will pull you deeper down the rabbit hole. Until next time, stay curious.